feel like I'm in a glass case of emotion right now. On the good side, we get evidence that Shawn Payton wanted Bo Nix all along. It is now confirmed that he had told a really valid source way before the draft that Bo Nix was his dude, that we didn't settle on the sixth best quarterback in this draft, that he always wanted Bo. So that's great news. The bad news is that we have more mainstream media outlets just dogging this team and clearly having zero clue about what we've done this offseason. We're going to break it all down on this video and a lot more. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan, and it's awesome to have you along for the ride. So first off, we know that there's a prevailing narrative around the NFL that, oh, the Broncos got the fifth best quarterback or the sixth best quarterback in this draft. Like, he's not going to be any good. But we know that where a quarterback is drafted has zero to do with how they end up performing as an NFL quarterback. All you got to do is look at Jamarcus Russell or David Carr or Josh Rosen, or like the list goes on and on. Ryan Leaf, Tim Couch, tons of players who are drafted high end up flaming out. Tons of players who you throw that generational talent stamp on aren't generational talent. And so the fact that we got Bo Nix as the sixth quarterback in this draft does not mean he's going to be the sixth best quarterback in that class. Like Kurt Warner, Tony Romo, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, like the list goes on and on of dudes who are like Tom Brady, the GOAT, Brock Purdy was undrafted. And so where a quarterback is drafted does not determine like how good they are. And I don't think I can say that fact enough. But now we are hearing from one of Shawn Payton's boys who's very plugged in. Shawn Payton liked Bo Nix all along, and that is truly who he wanted. Like, we are now having that confirmed, and that is confirmed by Jay Glazer. Jay Glazer and Shawn Payton have long been boys, and, you know, we've seen that all the way back to when Shawn was a coach with the New Orleans Saints, but even when he was working with Fox. And so now we are seeing the evidence, the cold, hard evidence that Shawn Payton wanted him. And so we're going through here, and he ended up showing up on his podcast. We saw him immediately FaceTime into the Pat McAfee show, and him and Bill Belichick like yup it up, and Shawn Payton was going over all these stats about how he wanted them, but still that could have just been him trying to cope and be like, yeah, I'm really happy with the girl I'm going to prom to, even though the first 5 girls said no. Like, he may be convincing himself into that. But what we are seeing now here is that Shawn Payton, before the draft, told Jay Glazer that he wanted to fly out to Bo Nix's home, and when the pick was up, like, knock on the door and be on TV saying the Denver Broncos draft you. And it was Jay Glazer who talked him out of that, and he mentions that in this podcast, that like that is what he wanted. He goes on and says multiple things in this interview, which was just incredible to me, about how there seems to be like this NFL hype train. And he said it best. He said a lot of times it feels like the tail is wagging the dog. So you have all these dudes in their mom's basement. I'll be guilty of that as well, who are saying like, oh, JJ's great. Oh, Jaden's great. Oh, all these players are great. And so then all of a sudden, when a GM or a scout is looking at tape, they run that through their filter, because we're getting these alerts on our phones all the time, like saying where these, you know, Monday morning quarterbacks believe a player should be drafted. And so he's saying it is like the tail wagging the dog, and we need to remember who is driving the train, and we need to let evaluators evaluate talent. And when they did that, they knew Bo Nix was the guy that they wanted to draft, so much so that they did a misinformation campaign and tried to trick everybody, so much so that Shawn Payton even wanted to fly out to tell Bo Nix, you're on our team. But Jay Glazer even said, well, don't do that, because I know other teams like him as well. And so the big piece of news that dropped in this podcast episode was Shawn Payton saying, after they worked out Bo Nix, he got in the car and said, we can't be the only dudes out there who are seeing how good this guy is. And this was the line that I loved. And he said, and come to find out, there were people behind us who thought the same thing. So Bo Nix was going to be a first-round drafted quarterback. Bo Nix was going to go off the board. There is zero chance he would have fallen to the second round. Would the Raiders have wanted him, like trade up to get, like, there are so many different ways that Bo Nix would have been off the board, and Shawn Payton confirmed it and confirmed that he liked him all along. So that had me feeling great. Like, all right, let's go, national media. You see the truth here. But then there's this article today in Bleacher Report that is called Teams That Are Failing at Their Rebuild Plans. And number one, Carolina Panthers, completely agree, they are failing, and they have a quarterback who they drafted number 1 overall who looked like he was a bust last year, and we're going to see him look like a bust this year again. So I agree they are, but then we're number 2 on their list. And this was kind of the thing that was infuriating to me. There's so much missed information in this article. So even just talking here where they say here they are splitting an $85 million dead cap over the next 2 seasons. Like, just even the wording of that makes it seem like it's a 50-50 split. Not that, they ate way more than the bulk of that this year in eating the $53 million, and yet we haven't regressed anywhere, and we've gone over that a ton on this channel. And then even just saying here that like the whole reason is that where is it? The fact is that Shawn Payton and Russell Wilson couldn't develop a working relationship, and it had nothing to do with them not being able to develop a working relationship. It had to do with the fact that Russell Wilson could not run the offense that Shawn Payton wanted to. Shawn Payton thrives on on-time plays, hitting dudes in stride when they're open. Russell Wilson thrives when the play breaks down and he throws a moon ball, and those things do not work together. And Shawn Payton talked about how he had to have his guardrails on this offense the whole time, and now we have a quarterback who can run that. So this made me really upset. And again, they're even just making kind of some big assumptions here about how good Bo Nix is going to be, and they are referring back to that train that Shawn Payton said, don't trust that train of evaluators. Those are all dudes in their mom's basement who are evaluating talent, not actual talent evaluators that get paid the big bucks to do that. And so they're even saying here that the Denver Broncos are putting trust in Shawn Payton to help an Oregon product outperform his pre-draft perception. Well, Shawn Payton just said that wasn't his pre-draft perception by the people who it actually mattered, which was NFL squads who were going to draft Bo Nix as well. So this made me extremely upset. And then the other one here was Albert Breer, who I usually really, really enjoy reading, and he writes for the Monday Morning Quarterback, goes in here and just says that the Denver Broncos are a talentless roster, and says that neither the offensive line or the defensive line is that great. And I think that's just flat out wrong. Like, we've covered a lot on this channel. Our offensive line has one of the best guards in the entire game in Meinertz. We have Ben Powers flanking him at the other guard position. We got McGlinchey, who was getting paid massive dollars in the NFC West. And then we have Garrett Bowles, who has started since he got to the team and is a very serviceable lineman. And PFF had us ranked the 7th best offensive line in the entire league last year. So I think that's a lie. And then our defensive line has just gotten so much better, and we're changing our scheme to actually work well for the talent that we have on the team. And we went out and got John Franklin Myers, who was starting on a great defensive line with the New York Jets. We got Malcolm Roach, who's a great run stopper. We still got Singleton. We still got DJ Jones. And then our edge rushers are like absolute studs and beasts. And so I just think the league is sleeping on us still, and this is the time to buy in on the Denver Broncos, because the hype around it in Broncos country, this is one of those, we're early on Bitcoin, we're early on Ethereum, we know something that the rest of the league doesn't, and that's very, very exciting news. Other exciting news is that the 16 dates for training camp are out there, and you can jump in the Ticketmaster queue and get free tickets to go watch the Denver Broncos. I got mine locked in today for the Green Bay Packers visit to the Denver Broncos on August 16th. So I hope I catch a lot of you out on the hill, and let me know in the comments, when are you going to Broncos training camp? I think even the fact that the Denver Broncos have opened their training camp to the public, they initially were supposed to be doing renovations on the field, and there was a lot of talk 2 years ago about how they're going to have to close training camp to the public. I think George Payton, our new ownership group, and Shawn Payton are like, people are going to want to see this because we're actually good. And so we're not trying to hide anything. We want to open this thing up. Let's fill that hill and let's be there, because here in Broncos country, we don't stop believing. Oh, that one felt so good.